We have lots to talk about here in today's video, including all kinds of rumors around player movement and free agency and trades as we get into the heavy and busy part of the offseason. Today's focus on teams like the Edmonton Oilers, the Pittsburgh Penguins, the New York Islanders, the Buffalo Sabres, and the Vegas Golden Knights. A lot of chatter about Vegas today. Plus, we have the new class of the Hockey Hall of Fame for 2025 announced. We have another trade being completed today involving a first-round pick changing hands today, plus some coaching notes and some other news and notes around the league. All that coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have lots to discuss in today's video. Let's kick things off with the announcement from the Hockey Hall of Fame, who announced today their class of 2025. It includes some really good players, one that's well overdue. We've got 4 male players, a couple of female players, and some builders, and I think everybody is very deserving. Leading the male side of things, we have Alexander Mogilny. Mogilny has been eligible for, what are we up to, about 15 or 16 years now? I think he last played in, I believe it was 2006, so he would have been eligible from 2009 to like going on 16 years here. So Mogilny, of course, had a heck of a career, but he's also a symbolic figure in the game for how his story went about coming to North America and defecting from Russia and all that. He's a major trailblazer in a sense. Was a dynamic player. Obviously, Mogilny had some tremendous seasons, including like really big numbers in the goal scoring category. Put up over 1,000 points, played just shy of 1,000 games. He did win a Lady Byng Trophy as well as a 2000 Stanley Cup, apart with the New Jersey Devils. So a heck of a career. He's been eligible for a long time. He's one of those players people have been arguing about for a long time, saying, why does he keep getting passed over? And we don't have to have that argument anymore. Joining him in the 25 Hall class, including Joe Thornton, the former first overall pick who went to the Boston Bruins, later traded fairly early in his career to the San Jose Sharks, where he's mostly known for being a Shark. Obviously finished things up with some stints with the Toronto Maple Leafs and briefly with the Florida Panthers as well. Thornton had a heck of a career, was one of the greatest passers of his era, of his generation. He's right up there in top 15 all-time scoring. He might not have won the Stanley Cup, but he's done just about everything else. And just a true ambassador of the game and well-deserving. Alongside of him, the big Z's, Zdeno Chara, the big defenseman, had a heck of a career, played well into his later years here, of course, got drafted by the New York Islanders, was involved in one of the most lopsided trades in NHL history with the Senators and Islanders. Of course, with the Islanders getting Yashin from Ottawa. In exchange, Ottawa gets Zdeno Chara, Bill McCult, and the second overall pick in the draft, where they were able to select Jason Spezza. So they got quite a haul for Yashin, who was really a great player, but also a major headache. That was a tremendous deal for the Sens. Chara, of course, through free agency, ended up in Boston, became the captain, and it's probably what he's most known for. Of course, won the Stanley Cup with the Bruins, longtime captain, just an absolute force back there on the back end, so it's certainly well-deserving. On his side of it, you've also got Duncan Keith, mostly known for being a Chicago Blackhawk and multi-time Stanley Cup champion. Was in the Norris Trophy conversation many times throughout his career. Just such an effortless, smooth skater. Was regarded as one of the top D in his era. So won a lot of cups, played a lot of games, put up a lot of points. Just a really solid overall player. Kind of flew under the radar a little bit in Chicago just because they had such star power with Patty Kane, Jonathan Toews, and some other guys there. But, he was a really big part of all those Cup championships with the Blackhawks. And of course, we've also got a couple of women in there as well, including Jennifer Botterill, top Canadian player for a long time, now a broadcaster, but going in as a player. Brianna Decker on the other side of it from Team USA. Both players had tremendous international careers. From the builder side of it, we have a male and a female. It's the first time as well we're getting a female into this category. You've got Jack Parker going in as well. One of the all-time famous coaches, coached for 40 years at Boston University. Just an absolute legend in college hockey. So he deserves all kinds of recognition. Helped a lot of players develop and a lot of players make it to the NHL. So huge congrats to him. And Danielle Sauvageau, of course, longtime player and played a huge role in Canadian women's national team. Currently involved with the new women's league, the PWHL, as the general manager for the Montreal Victoire. So Sauvageau, a well-accomplished, lifer in hockey, really did a lot of things, but going in to the Hall here as a builder, like I said, it's the first female to go in under that category. So that's certainly, trailblazing as well, which is good to see. With the women's league now up and running into, 2 successful years going on, number 3 coming up this fall. I suspect we'll see more and more of the younger generations kind of be considered for that into the future. And a lot of the older generation that paved the way for that will get recognized, as a lot of them are involved in that league and are getting involved in coaching and managing and other things to help establish the pro level game. So great to see. All in all, congrats to everybody involved with the Hockey Hall of Fame in the 2025 class. It's a deep, well-deserved class by all means. As I mentioned, we had lots of other activity around the league today, including the details that we learned from the New York Rangers surrendering their 2025 first-round pick to the Pittsburgh Penguins. You might ask yourself, well, why are they doing this? What happened? Well, it's because it was a condition in the JT Miller trade. It might sound confusing because it's Pittsburgh, but essentially, here's a quick recap of what happened. The New York Rangers and the Vancouver Canucks made a big trade, right? JT Miller going to the Rangers from Vancouver, along with a couple of other pieces. Philip Hedl and a first-round pick, and Mancini go back to the other way. So that first-round pick goes from the Rangers to Vancouver, but it has a condition on it that it's top 13 protected. So if it's in that top 13 spot in the NHL draft, the Rangers can choose to hang on to it and defer to next year. But if they do that, then the following year's first-round pick has no protection on it. It doesn't matter where it falls, it would be transferred. So ultimately, that pick goes from Vancouver in the Miller trade. But then Vancouver trades that pick as part of the package that went to the Penguins when they picked up Marcus Pettersson and Drew O'Connor from Pittsburgh. So now that first-round pick is in the hands of the Penguins, and they were getting a first-round pick from the Rangers either this year or next. The Rangers had some time to make a decision. I think that was coming up on their deadline here to make that choice, and they chose to let them have this year's pick. So now the Penguins have back-to-back first-round picks, 11 and 12. So their own pick and the Rangers picks are consecutive picks this year. Some people are saying that the Rangers are kind of admitting they're going to be worse next year and the pick might be higher. I don't think that's the case. Obviously, they had to make a decision here. I think looking at the draft class and what they could choose played a role in this. They also were rumored to be having some trade conversations. If they keep the pick, I think they were trying to see if they can move up and get a more impactful player. So I think when those trade talks broke down and they didn't like the price tags and what was kind of, had potential to transpire, they decided, you know what, let's just move off the pick now when we'll keep next year's. A couple of things. One, you don't know if next year's pick is going to be higher or lower. You hope it's lower because you hope the team improves. But you can't guarantee that, right? And going into next year with it being unprotected, what if it turned out to be a top 3, top 5, or heck, even top 1? You don't know. You just don't. So you got to protect yourself, right? The other thing that can go into that as well is later into the season, when you do know, have a better idea where things are going, if you're trending towards being a playoff team and you want to add at the trade deadline, you have that in your back pocket as a trade asset. So to me, I think this is a good choice by the Rangers. Unless they could have made a trade or moved up or did something that just made too much sense, I think this is the right move. So that's why this happened here today. Some other news around the NHL. Matt Martin, longtime New York Islander, has announced his retirement. Of course, he played a limited role with the Islanders last year, but he's not going anywhere. He's sticking around, going to be a member of the New York Islanders. He's taken on a new role. He will have a title of Special Assistant to the general manager. Of course, new GM Matthew Darche thought it was important to keep the alumni around if he was interested, and he'll get a chance to basically do, like Darche said, he's going to get a chance to do a little bit of everything and kind of feel things out to see if, long term, being in the front office is something that he wants to do. So good on Matt Martin, heck of a career, 15 years. Not surprising that this is the time that he's called her quits after how last year went. I think it was time, but at the same time, nice to see him still involved in the game and with the franchise that meant so much to him throughout his career. The Nashville Predators today, they announced that they've parted ways with assistant coach Todd Richards, who's been there for an extended time, but they've also hired Luke Richardson to be on the coaching staff, essentially to take the place of Todd Richards. Of course, Richardson was recently the head coach of the Chicago Blackhawks. I believe he was interim head coach of Montreal briefly before, longtime NHL assistant. He's got tons of experience, great guy, great person, well-respected coach, so nice to see him get another opportunity to get back in the game. Hockey Canada has also announced today that they're announcing a full-time general manager for what they call their program of excellence, which will be essentially the GM for the national junior team, as well as like the U18 and some of the other programs that fall under this category. I think that's a wise move. It's going to be Alan Miller, who's put in a lot of years working with Hockey Canada. He had left the organization and worked for the past couple of years for the Regina Pats, but then returns to this new role. I think it makes a ton of sense to have a full-time general manager in place, so you're not constantly changing from year to year, and you're not, it's hard throwing together a new staff, management, coaching, and everything year to year. Like, the Canadian program has not been as strong as it really could be or needs to be, and I think this is a step in the right direction to help along with that. A few UFA speculation rumors around the league that we heard today. A couple of smaller ones. Cam Atkinson, who's president with the Lightning, is not expected to get an offer to re-sign and will be hitting free agency to find a new team for July 1. Dan Vladar, of course, backup goaltender with the Calgary Flames, is expected at this point to test free agency, expected to get some interest, especially amongst a few Eastern teams, including potentially Philadelphia or New Jersey. He could end up being in a tandem again with Jacob Markstrom, although I think the most likely outcome in the Devils organization is that they go with one of their younger goalies like Dawes to be the backup. Otherwise, they'd probably bring back Jake Allen, unless they can get Vladar cheaper, I guess, and save some cap space, but we'll see. There's also a speculation out there from Columbus writers that the Blue Jackets are going to go hard at Mitch Marner. Now, we don't know if Marner will even take a meeting with the Blue Jackets, because we've heard a lot about Vegas. We've heard a lot about LA, to some degree Anaheim. We know Carolina is expected to be very interested in Marner, but if some of the other rumors and things they might be working on go through, then that might change things for them. And the Blue Jackets have a ton of cap space. I can understand why they would be interested, but we don't know. We've heard Marner, like for example, probably won't be talking to a team like Utah, because Utah was a heavily rumored team, not so much lately, but back, probably near the beginning of the playoffs or when the Leafs were first eliminated. A lot of speculation's been rampant here for a while where he's going to be heading, and a lot of people thought Utah wanted to make a big splash, and I still think they might, but it just doesn't seem to be him to be the guy. The Utah GM, Bill Armstrong, as well as the San Jose Sharks GM, Mike Greer, have both made comments that I'm not sure how keen they are to be giving out big money long-term contracts. The Sharks GM Mike Greer was asked about their potential interest in pursuing a top free agent like Marner, and all he kind of really said was that he didn't expect to be handing out any long-term big money deals. But there's lots of speculation that the Marner camp is probably looking at a shorter term, 2, 3, 4 years. But a lot of people are expecting the Sharks to try to at least have a conversation with Marner, but it's not expected that that's going to be a situation that he wants to jump into. He wants to probably go to a team that's further along and closer to winning, which is why Vegas and LA seem to be getting the most airtime. But in Columbus's case, some of the reporters are saying they expect Columbus to throw as much as $14.5 million per year at Marner. I don't think they're too keen on what the term is either. So it could be, a shorter term, longer term. I think they'd probably give him that amount of money on just about any term that he wanted. But can you imagine? That might be a lot of money to turn down. I mean, it's expected, though, he might get 12 or 13, or maybe a little more. It's hard to say where this is going to go. I think the Marner free agent contract is going to be very, very interesting. At this rate, though, we haven't really heard that Columbus is a team that likely intrigues Marner. So we don't know how he would feel about it. But sometimes money does talk, and they were a better team than expected last year. So it's not like they're completely out of the mix, but we'll see what happens. Interesting to know how much money they might throw at them for sure. But when it comes to Vegas, there was a big rumor today from a couple of reporters this morning. And it wasn't some of the biggest names in the rumor mill when it comes to like Elliotte Friedman, Sarah Valley, Dreger. It wasn't any of those guys, but there was a few reporters, including Cam Robertson, I think, was one. Marco D'Amico was another. And they are reputable guys, and they do get good intel, and they've been right about enough stuff that when they put stuff out on Twitter, I do, take it semi-seriously. I'm like, okay, this is interesting. Let's monitor this and see where it's going, see if anything comes from it. And there was a big rumor going on this morning that the Golden Knights were possibly trading Tomas Hertl, and it appears as though he was heading east, and the team that was rumored was the Carolina Hurricanes. Now, we know that Vegas, they may not need to make a big move to sign Marner, because we don't know the health status of Alex Pietrangelo, and there's a lot of speculation that he may start the season, maybe even be out all season on a long-term injury reserve. So, but for them to make a trade to make sure that they have the space in case they need it, there was talk earlier in the offseason about William Karlsson, then that kind of got shut down. But now this Hertl rumor, and now some of the other more, I guess, some of the bigger name reporters, if you will, more mainstream that get a little intel, were told that later in the day, after this Hertl rumor had been percolating for a big chunk of time, that there was nothing imminent. They weren't sure that it was going to be happening. That either combination of the Hurricanes kind of downplaying it, or a combination of the Golden Knights and Hertl maybe not going through with it. But anyways, their sources swore that there was smoke around this, and that there was something to it, and that there was a lot of action around Hertl, and things were close. So for right now, it's a situation worth monitoring, but until we get more details, it's kind of hard to say. But it would not be shocking in the least to see Vegas pull off a major cost-cutting move to not only add Marner, but depending on the health situation of Pietrangelo, to maybe even add somebody else too. You never know. Like, this would not be a shock at all. So we know they're big game hunters. We know they're aggressive. We know they'll do anything to add. So we'll see what happens, but definitely a situation worth monitoring for sure. Fourthperiod.com and Dave Pagnotta reporting that Erik Karlsson is absolutely willing to waive to go to a contender. We know the Penguins are one of the few teams that are kind of in major sell mode right now. Obviously, it's more of a, you could say, like looking at the market, the Penguins are like the only true team that's trying to unload a bunch of stuff. Everything else is probably going to have to be hockey trades because everybody else is trying to get better, where Pittsburgh is trying to unload and probably weaken themselves, to be honest. But Erik Karlsson is getting some attention, and to believe that the Penguins are motivated to do this, so they will eat some more of the salary to lower the AAV, and he's motivated to go to a contender. So again, hard to say what happens when it comes to Karlsson, but his name is out there. He's ranking high on a lot of these trade bait boards, and it seems like there is a fair bit of attention around him, but it's kind of hard to say where he's going to end up. I know with the Oilers, we've talked a lot about different pieces. I know there was a lot of speculation from Elliotte Friedman that Victor Arvidsson is almost definitely going to be traded. It's believed that the Oilers and Arvidsson at their exit meeting kind of talked about the season, and both generally agreed that things just didn't work out, and it wasn't maybe a great fit, and that they need to work together to try to find him a new home for next year, because they did give him trade protection. So again, they can't just up and move him without his consent. So he's going to have some say. The return probably won't be much of anything, probably be more of a cap dump. He's got 1 year left on his contract, so it's not a ton of money, it's not a ton of term, but they're trying to find a way to offload the Arvidsson contract so that he can get himself a fresh start and see if things can get back on track for next year. Now, the bigger rumor of the day, Frank Saravalli on his DFO show this morning on Daily Faceoff was talking about the Islanders and the Sabres. I know JJ Peterka and Noah Dobson are two of the younger player names that are getting the most attention on the trade market, and their names are all over the rumor mill with all kinds of interest. Again, we don't even know for certainty that both teams are going to trade these players. Every time we hear about Peterka, I know Friedman said it on numerous times that they don't really want to trade him, but they feel like they might have to because he really wants to move. And, I guess they probably keep asking themselves, is there any way we can change this relationship and get a second, have second thoughts, or so to speak. But they're hoping things will change. But, they have to listen and they have to engage because this is something the player wants. He needs a new contract. If he refuses to sign, you're not going to have the player one way or the other anyway. So it's kind of difficult to say how that's all going to go. But Sarah Valley did confirm today that he believes that the Islanders and the Sabres have had conversations together about each of these guys and a potential Peterka for Dobson type of swap. I mean, like I said, if you want a player of value like that, you're going to have to give up something of value like that. And, Dobson would be intriguing to the Sabres for Peterka and vice versa. If either of those teams are going to make a move with either of those players, you're going to want a high-end player that's a similar age coming back the other way. We know the Sabres are revamping their blue line. Of course, we know Bo Byram's likely going to go. They get a combination of too many left shot D and just need a different mix. We know Matthias Samuelson's also available for trade. Kevin Adams completely downplayed in his media availability today the fact about the rumors about a buyout. He said that's not happening. But didn't say anything about a trade. That could always happen. But, clearly they've got, Rasmus Dahlin, Owen Power. They could use a big right shot defenseman. The only thing with Dobson is he's used to being a really strong power play quarterback. Now, he's had his times where the power play wasn't really working the greatest for him. And obviously, wasn't necessarily getting that top quarterback time. But if he's going to be a $10 or $11 million player like he's asking to be, he's going to have to be racking up the offensive points. But with other guys on the team like Power and like Dahlin, is he going to get that opportunity? So, I mean, it's nice to have the firepower. It's nice to have the offense. But is it really going to work out when you have too many guys built the same way? I mean, obviously, Dahlin is not built that way, but does a lot of the same things. Better defender, though, for sure. So, I don't know. I'm not sure how perfect of a match it is, but Peterka would be a great fit for the Islanders. They need some scoring on the wings for sure, and he's young. He can grow with some of these younger players, and he's got a great scoring ability. He'd be a terrific fit, but I think they need to be careful about moving Dobson. They don't have a lot of other high-end talent on that back end. They are likely drafting Matthew Schaefer, which will help, but how quickly is he going to be impactful? We don't know. There's lots of speculation there, but the fact that these two teams have even had conversations around these two young players is very intriguing, to say the least. Like I said, I think both these players would be an intriguing option for the other team. Whether or not it's perfect, I don't know if I can say that. So it's not a given that it ends up happening, but I think they both teams have some interesting pieces in play. We know the Islanders are interested in maybe getting another first-round pick. The Sabres are at 9, so that might be a little bit too low for them to get James Haggins. And there's a lot of chatter lately I've seen that Haggins could go to a team like Philly or Boston if he's still on the board. So they might have to get up there higher into that, 4 or 5 range in order to make something happen, to kind of solidify a pick to get him. Utah seems pretty open to making a move. Would they be a player for Dobson? Could they pry away that number 4 pick? I wonder. I don't know. I mean, they added a lot on their D-core last year. Taking a look at what they have there, does he make sense? I don't know. I'm not real sure. I mean, he could be. I mean, they got Dursey. They got Sergachev. Where does he fit in there? I mean, are they going to be willing to pay him what he wants? He's an interesting player. I don't know. Anyways, we'll have to wait and see what happens. But at the end of the day, the Islanders are busy. The Sabres are busy. The fact they've had conversations around these two young players, I thought was very interesting. Let me know down in the comments. Do you think this is a great fit? Should these teams continue talking and build a trade around these two centerpieces? Does it make sense? Or do you think that it's not in either team's best interest? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and we will discuss further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with the latest news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.